We really appreciate everybody joining us. I'm Ben Marshall. I'm a global IT strategist here at Software One, and on the pre-sales team. So basically, whenever you guys are working on strategies and trying to figure out what what it is you need or how to buy it, what technologies apply to your solution, me and my team will come online with you and talk to you about just about anything you need to talk about in your enterprise. So we also run a radio show every Wednesday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, where we're just talking about IT business. It's a full 3-hour talk show, so it's meant to be put on in the background, not like a webinar. There's no slides to watch, so it's all audible. And we've covered just about everything in the IT arena. So as you can see at the bottom, the topics that we cover on a regular basis. And just this last week, we did a full show dedicated to budget best practices. So creating budgets, managing budgets for everybody in the enterprise, including admins. So if you're interested, check that out. But let's get started because we're here to talk about Windows 10 and Enterprise Mobility Suite. This is there's going to be there's a lot of slides here, but don't worry, we won't. We're not going to spend a lot of time on a lot of them. There's some marketing stuff here, but really I've only put them in here to create placeholders for topics. You know, as we send this slide deck out later, you'll be able to go through and talk about these subjects that we talk about today to every level of your IT shop. So that's why I've kind of stacked the deck. We're going to wait to the end to answer the questions because I'm here by myself today. I usually have one of my team members with me, but lately it's just been crazy with the end of the year coming and everybody's blackouts. They're trying to focus on the business side of stuff. So we will take those questions, but also we want to use at the end of the show or at the end of this webinar, we want to use the raise your hand feature. So at the end, if you'd rather talk about whatever you have to ask, we're more than happy to bring you live on the webinar and have a conversation so everybody else can hear. So, all right, with that, let's get started. Windows 10. We're really excited about Windows 10 because, when Microsoft released Windows 8, everybody was pumped. We all kind of saw what it was, and from the consumer side, absolutely, it was neat, and that's the word I'll go with. But from the enterprise side, we saw that there's going to be some issues. The biggest one that we saw come in was the lack of the start button. So with Windows 10, we've added back the start button to make it more seamless with what you were doing before in the Windows 7 stack. So that's a big thing here, and this is something that they heard loud and clear and decided, we need to go back there. But what's the features that Windows 10 is more suitable for, that are more relevant in the enterprise? And that's what we have here. So if any of you have listened or have actually played with Windows 10, you might have noticed that the Microsoft Edge, which is a new browser from Microsoft, has appeared and is listed as the default browser. Well, if you've played with it at all, then you might notice that it lacks a little bit in the compatibility areas. So there's some websites that you can't see. It's kind of crazy. It's something new for Microsoft, and they're really trying to improve on our interaction. And the driving goal for Microsoft Edge is the ability to write on web pages. We've all seen these apps that allow us to leave Post-it notes and things like that, but the Edge is a touch interface, so it allows you to take notes. It allows you to do a lot of cool stuff. It's just not enterprise ready yet. So the big thing here, the big headline here, is that Internet Explorer 11 is still included, and that's a good thing because we'll still be able to do the things that we're already doing in our enterprise. So any of your web apps that you've already deployed for Windows 7, Windows 8. Will still be consumable from your end users with Explorer 11 in the future. The next thing is the authentication against Azure AD Premium, and Active Directory. So This is one of my favorite features of the new Windows set because in this world that we are doing a lot more mobile officing. Sorry, that's I'm going to go with that. That's probably not a word, but as our workers go more mobile, we have a need to do the things that we do in IT in a from a remote location, and we just can't send everybody to the local to the employee's house or wherever they're working from. So we have to have the ability to do some of this stuff remotely. Well, one of the big things was the desktop provisioning or enrolling into your organization's network, whether it's connecting to AD or joining your domain. Well, with Windows 10 and Azure AD Premium, you can do that now. So if your policy is to allow your user to go out and purchase their own Windows 10 device, and let's say and typically it'll be a Windows 10 Pro, by the way. They come home, they plug it in, they go to your website and ask to join to your domain. With Azure AD Premium and Windows 10 Pro, you can do that. Also, you have the ability to set a policy within your Azure AD domain, which is an extension of your on-premise domain, to force a upgrade to the Enterprise Edition. And that's really cool because now I have a whole another set of features that I want to utilize to enable me to manage that device, to troubleshoot it, to connect to it, to push software and data and corporate assets to it. But then the really cool part happens. Well, it's not really cool when somebody separates, but what happens when you separate with that employee, you also have the ability to remove them from the domain and in turn, without any wipe and complete reloads, downgrade that operating system back to the Windows Pro which is the license that the end user actually owns. So there's some really cool stuff going with this. This is my favorite feature because now I can really institute what I call a bring your own whatever policy and allow them to join those Windows PCs or laptops to my domain from their house and upgrade them, push all the policies, push all the assets, push the software, direct access, which is the VPN solution that comes within Windows Enterprise, and accomplish a lot of the things that I would have to do inside the corporate environment. So those days of going to the store, buying all these laptops or PCs, taking them into a room to stage them all, and getting all the policies deployed to them and all that, those days are gone if you have a mobile workforce. You don't have to go ship them now. You can just tell them to go get their own, and they can accomplish the same thing. Because of that, you still have the standard desktop as a default. So you have the ability to set the policies on the standard desktop, the background image, the locked image, all the things that we've been doing today. It's getting easier with Windows 10 because, again, I don't have to lay my hands on that device to implement these different corporate policies. So it's just amazing what they've done, and they've gotten the feedback from end users. We all know about the questions that we get when we're using websites or the operating system. Can you join the group that lets us know how we're doing, information and all that. So some of this stuff is just fantastic. The next thing is the UI, which is again what we were just talking about. You've got the same things that you've had before, but now you can institute those from a remote location. So I can do the remove whatever apps. I can prevent apps. I can change the way that the desktop is configured and where everything lies as a standard. There's just so much more I can do with Windows 10 than I could with Windows 7. And even Windows 8 and 8.1. So really cool stuff. The touch apps. Now, this is funny. That's the new term, the touch apps, which is, they started out being called Metro apps, and then they went to Windows 8 apps, and Microsoft really didn't know what to call them, and so now we're calling them the touch apps, which is appropriate because they're primarily designed to be interfaced by either your finger or a stylus, or multiple fingers, depending on what the app does. And so those apps now run without having to switch over to that other user interface. You can run whichever version, whatever app you want to run, all within that, within your standard corporate desktop, the one where we do all our work, and the one where our users know to do all their work. So that's going to get a lot easier. The security on Windows is pretty sweet. I mean, we actually interviewed a chief security officer with Microsoft for the radio show, and a lot of the stuff that Microsoft's been up to is just intense. And the reason why I say that is, just to give you an example, when I joined, I've got a Microsoft badge. I'm a partner of Microsoft, and part of that program is to allow me to connect to their internal network. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to take a device and actually join the Microsoft domain. So all of these things that I've just went through, I've actually experienced within the Microsoft network themselves. Well, one of the things that I noticed is the device that I chose to join their domain actually had Kaspersky antivirus on it, and it was active. It's a good product, and so I was using it to protect that device whenever I went into anybody's VPN or whatever. And what I noticed was they had removed it once I joined their domain. So they have a policy to go out and remove third-party antivirus. Now, what I thought was, okay, well, then they just deployed, the System Center endpoint protection. And in fact, that's not there. They're using a combination of the Windows security policies and just the Defender, the Windows Live Defender. And that is the security that they need. So the reason why they can get away with that is the Defender is the malware. So that's looking for things to prevent, from, and we're actually going to get into a little bit more of this, but with the advanced threat analytics, there some of that is in this Windows operating system, and it's watching what every system and every service is doing. But the way that the Windows environment is architected itself, so the operating system architecture is such that it's now near impossible, and I have to say near impossible because it's a cat and mouse game right now, to put a piece of malware or something that could hurt the environment on that device and then have it run rampant. And the reason why is because everything is architected to run in its own memory space. They're not connected. There are certain protocols that you have to go through to get an app to be able to see the rest of the operating system. It's just very, very locked down, very siloed in the way that the apps run and their relationship with each other. The apps are changing themselves as well. So this Windows environment is the most secure. And as we talk to customers on a regular basis about what is their strategy with their operating system, if they're on XP, they just have to get off to be safe. If they're on Windows 7, there's some companies that need to have support, and so that's a conversation. But when we have customers that come to us in any security environment and talk about, hey, we need to make our security more and our environment more secure, one of the things we mention is, you might consider adopting Windows 10 now then, because that is the baseline layer for a great security posture. So as we talked to that chief security officer, it was incredible, all the stuff that they had going on. So this is the most secure Windows environment. And then the as we talk security, you have to talk updates, and in fact, that's one way you can upgrade the Windows environment itself. So we actually on the day of release, we actually were on the air and had to mention that, guys, if you're not paying attention to where your patches are going, if you're not managing them, or if you have several of them set to auto approve, then you need to get inside your patch management solution and go make sure that you're not auto approving the upgrade itself, because it was going through the same protocol and was listed as a certain type of patch. And therefore, we did see some people that all of a sudden rebooted their machine and bam, they're Windows 10. So the upgrade process is so easy now or the upgrade process through updates is so easy that people accidentally got updated. One of the other things now, I use Windows 10 on all of my devices except for one, and that's one of my old corporate devices. And they claim to have the fastest boot time. I would have to concur. When I boot my workstation from work, and it's kind of funny because that's a really mixed up operating system, very customized is what I'm trying to say. Mixed up is probably the right word for it though. When I boot that and then boot my Windows 10 alongside it, oh yeah, the Windows 10 is up minutes before the Windows 8. So they definitely got that right. Well, not probably. What's happening in the background is your user interface and the availability to get to data and apps is up and running while the rest of the stuff's happening in the background, and that's happening across all the Microsoft platforms. The Where our old operating systems wanted to have everything up and running and stabilized before it would allow you to log in, this is quite opposite, and it is a different look and feel. So much more pleasant. So, and then we have the Snap application. So they've added a lot more support for multiple monitors. And as everybody knows, we're all using multiple monitors now. I'm literally sitting in a nest of 7 monitors as we speak, and that's 2 machines. And with the Windows 10, they enable you to use the features that we use with our monitors, the keystrokes, the Windows arrows to position our windows. That support has grown, and you have the ability to do what you thought you should have been able to do before with a multi-monitor Windows 10 environment. It's really kind of cool, a lot more user-friendly, a lot more intuitive. So that one to me was actually kind of a really cool product. And then we have the third-party products that will be able to manage the BitLocker. So BitLocker is opening up with a standard API that will allow you to connect other solutions to manage this environment. And it says you no longer need MDOP, and that's really kind of funny because of the move that they've made with MDOP. And if anybody is unsure what MDOP is the Microsoft Desktop Optimization Pack, and what that was a set of tools that increased the ability for your administrators to administrate their workstation environment. So tools that service desk folks could use, level 1, level 2, level 3 workstation folks could all use. And then your administrators, there was one app in there called MBAM, and that's the Microsoft BitLocker Administration and Monitoring Tool. Really kind of crazy name. I think the product manager just wanted to say MBAM, because monitoring is part of it. It reports, and it reports on any attempt to circumvent the encryption of a disk. So the MBAM environment itself is a highly functional, and it obviously adds more functionality than group policy. Highly functional BitLocker administration for enterprises. So you can manage your BitLocker across the board for all your users. You can recover their encryption keys. So if anybody's familiar with disk encryption at all, which is what BitLocker is, that's Microsoft's version of it. If you forget your PIN or your password, then you're done. I mean, that disk is done. There's no recovery of it. However, with MBAM, it actually will encrypt and protect those keys, and the administrator has a way to unlock those keys at the server side in the directory itself, and go and give that to you so that you can unlock your machine. So there's some cool stuff in MDOP, and we'll actually talk a little bit about that coming up. So let's move on. So we wanted to just throw this in here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. This Windows Defender Live is probably actually should be on the other side, but Cortana's joined the mix. So now I have my machines all call me dude. So, what's happening today, dude? Or what do you need today, dude? It's really kind of funny, but the Cortana allows you to interface vocally with your machine. And if you think about it, that's going to be one of the most prevalent interfaces in the future. I mean, there's a commercial on right now that's actively playing from Google where everybody's just talking to their phones. They're not actually opening up their web browser or opening the Google app and typing in a search. They're just asking questions directly. And right in front of me, I have the Amazon Echo that's the same thing. Her only interface is the voice interface. So Cortana right now is still kind of on the consumer side and the cool and the nice to have, but there are a ton of business applications that are working on implementing Cortana. I'm afraid to say her, but eventually we're all going to be calling her, just like I call my Echo her because her name's Alexa. So that's embedded in there, and that's going to be used in the future. The other one in this list that I really see, well, let's see, it's not here actually. Um, it's actually in a different slide. That's crazy. Is some of the Connect technologies. So Connect is embedded as well, and so the camera can start to be utilized. And they're actually putting some infrared cameras in, so it can be used to do more authentication. And actually, we're going to get into that here in a little bit. So why upgrade? So what are the business cases for this? Windows 7 is out of mainstream. Now, what does that mean? Because that can be disconcerting if you don't understand the life cycle process that Microsoft uses. Windows 7 went out of mainstream support, and all that means is you can no longer open a trouble ticket against it because, according to Microsoft, they're not going to support it on a desk. And then in the event that there's a bug, you can no longer request a bug fix. Now, there is one exception, and that is if you were already a customer, and you wanted to get all of your Windows 7 to continue to get patches or be able to open bug fixes and get those delivered to you, then you could purchase an extended support contract through your Premier contract, which you already had to be a Premier customer. You had to do that before the mainstream support ended. What you will still get without doing that is the security patches, the security updates. And when we start talking about compliance and we start talking about HIPAA, SOX, all of those CFRs refer to the need to get regularly scheduled security updates. So with the Windows 7 being out of mainstream, you're still good there. However, once we get to the extended support expiration, which is way off in 2020, I say that it seems time's flying by way faster by the day. In 2020, the Windows 7 will stop receiving security patches, and then at that point, we will start to get concerned about federal compliance with our operating system if we're on Windows 7 still. Windows 10 is, again, like I said earlier, the business requirement to secure your environment more. That's a good reason to start talking about Windows 10. A mobile environment, a mobile workforce is another good business case for looking at Windows 10 now. As we look at the BYOW is what I call it, and the bring your own whatever world, we're looking at all these third-party products. We're looking at devices, trying to create a strategy that will accommodate everybody's, needs. And if you've ever done a mobile device management project, it's really kind of funny because one of the first things a project starts to do is define the devices it'll support. And so you're creating a policy, and we're only going to support these devices. And lo and behold, an executive has a device that isn't on that list. And so you need to create an exception policy right away as well. Well, if you consider the Windows 10 integration with EMS, which we're going to get into here in a little bit, that makes for a great BYOW environment. And the reason why I say that is the integration, the ability to push policies. It's all there, and it's there in the third-party products as well, but it's there in the way that you're already doing business. So as you manage your corporate environment, the devices that live within your four walls, you create policies, you do patches, you push software to them, you take requests to push single packages to end users that have a new need. All of that is done the exact same way, only in the mobile environment. Now, you might click on a different place, but you're still doing the same functionality the same way. So it's a lot more intuitive. That means that there's a lower learning curve to deploying this type of environment for a BYOW, and your administrators are going to go, oh yeah, we can do this right now. So that's why I say when you're looking at a BYOW, and I'm interchanging that obviously with BYOD. I've got people that call it a BYOC, bring your own cell, because it's not always a bring your own computer. Um, and that's why I just transpose that to BYOW. The Windows 10 EMS environment is an awesome approach to creating a lockdown environment, being highly flexible with your end users, and still allowing them to do multiple types of devices, whether they're tablets, phones, Windows phones, or regular PCs or laptops. So really kind of cool in that respect. And then the biometrics are built in, and this is where the camera came in. So soon to include infrared camera support. Now, the reason why they have to do that is I don't know if anybody's used a face recognition authentication device. I do this. It's with my bank, but it's only one factor. So they allow they if I open my phone and I try to get into my bank, it actually turns the camera onto me and starts looking at me, and I have to hold it up and smile just at the right angle, and then it'll authenticate me. But what people have determined, what the security experts, and I live in San Antonio, so I've got a lot of them swimming around here, figured out is a picture would work in a lot of cases there. So what we've done is we're moving to more of an infrared camera support, so that not only do you have to have the facial points in the right place, but you also have to be the right temperature. So a picture, that's going to be tough to get it to 98.5 or whatever it is. And so the infrared camera is coming, and it will also allow you to authenticate a lot more securely once it gets here. So these are reasons why you would do this now. There's also the added benefit or the added perk of the free upgrade that Microsoft's offered only for the next 7 months. So it came in. They offered this when Windows 10 came out. However, they limited us to 1 year to take advantage of it. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you're a Windows 10 or Windows Pro customer, then you can, I'm sorry, a Windows 7, 8, 8.1, or a Windows Pro of any of those customer, you can upgrade to the Windows 10 for free. Enterprise is free, but that was, if you have software assurance, you're going to have it anyway. And so if you already had Enterprise, you're going to have it. So if you have Windows 8, then you'll get Windows 10 for free. If you have Windows 8.1 Pro, then you'll get Windows 10 Pro for free. Again, that's only for 7 months. But there's some other gotchas in that, and we're going to get into that here in a second. I put this slide in here so that you guys can see the reference. You see that XP is done. It's no longer getting security patches. So if you work for an organization that has XP in your environment, and there is personal information, personal health information, financial information going through those systems, you're already out of compliance. But I can't imagine that there's a lot of people that are doing that. With the Vista, well, I mean, really, did anybody deploy that in the enterprise? I mean, I had it. I used it myself in my network, but that was a chief architect when I was doing that. So, yeah, I used it. I had to test it, but I didn't deploy it to any of my environment. But then the Windows 7, you can see here last January, mainstream support ended. So you won't be able to do the bug fix, and you won't be able to open tickets against it. You will be required to open up the upgrade to do that. So let's see. We've got a couple of questions. Let's see. Can't use a photograph. Oh, no, that's correct. And then we got another question. I hook up my PC to company network. Now it's managed by my company policies. I'm done work at the end of the day and disconnect from the company network. What state is my PC in now? Work policies. It's a great question. So how fluid are these policies? Well, really, the way to think about it is you joined that device to their domain. So it's not a plug in the cable in type of approach where once the cable's plugged in, all of a sudden I'm getting policies, and we kind of associate that to when consultants come on site, we have our security team look at it, make sure that they've got everything running. If they don't, they try to implement something so that the policies will allow them on the network. No, this is actually joining the environment. And so once you've done that, so I've joined this machine to Microsoft's network. When I take it off and move it out to my deck and work outside, it's still working under those same those security policies. So the only way to get rid of those is to unjoin that domain. And then once you do that, it will remove all of the policies and any apps and any corporate assets that belong to that company that they've deemed as corporate assets and have identified as something that needs to be removed. So I hope that answers your question. Any thoughts if Microsoft will extend the upgrade beyond the remaining 7 months? Well, it's the free upgrade, so probably not. But let me get back to that question because I do want to. There is some gotchas with that, and so I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. But and that's coming up in another slide. Okay, so the extended support you can get through Premiere. It will cost you a pretty penny, but there are business reasons to do it. We talk to customers all the time that wanted that, but for Windows 7, you had to do that before January 13, 2015. So if you don't have it now, it's too late to get it. Windows 8.1, if that's your standard environment, you still have the ability to do that for another 3 years, or 2.5 years, really. And so, when we look at the life cycle of our products from Microsoft, it's good to understand what mainstream support means and what extended support means. I just want to reiterate that when a application or an operating system is in the extended support realm, so it's already expired its mainstream support, you will definitely get security patches. You get those until that date that's listed under the extended support. So compliancy, you're good. It's just a business decision. So let's see. I'm going to keep going, and then we'll come back to some questions here in a second. And this is where I was going to talk about the upgrades. The funny thing about the free upgrade that's offered is you have to do each machine individually through the patch process. So if I have a corporate environment, first of all, this is a consumer offer, and the volume license is not the same. And so if you had SA on all your machines at work, that's where the upgrade comes from. The free upgrade was for the consumer, and we have businesses that don't have software assurance, but they've bought consumer-based solutions and laptops and PCs, and so they want to take advantage of that. So, each individual machine has to be done by itself, individually. So you're going to go through and tell it to do its own patch, and then it's upgraded. We started to get questions about using volume license images. So can I utilize the free upgrade to get but then use a volume standard image that I've created, right? So the answer to that is no. So what you would have to do to achieve that, you would have to get the free upgrade, you would have to manually upgrade each one individually, get that license established, and then go back and re-provision basically that device and put a volume license standard image on it. So that's the gotcha, and that's why I'm saying, I was asked if they're going to extend the free Windows 10 upgrade. Probably not, because of all the stipulations they put on it. But if you're in the situation where you can manually upgrade all of them, great. Maybe that's your project next June. But if you're not, then it's going to be real cumbersome and very expensive, because you're going to have to use a lot of resources to go through, do them individually, and then re-image them all is basically what you're going to have to do. So let's see, another question. Is there a new version of Windows Server needed to administer Windows 10? A great question, and the answer is no. The Windows 12 R2 is the equivalent, and it's fully featured to manage this environment. And that's a great question too, because well, let me get this out of the way, and then I will go back to that. Let me check my time. Wow, it's going quick. I need to move quick. So again, this is the upgrade path here is to do the updates, but with all that said, you still have all your other processes that are still valid. So if I do user provisioning automatically, if I deploy an operating system in a staging environment, I want to do it through System Center. All the ways that I've established today are still good. It's just that you have the added opportunity to do the Windows update. And if you're managing your Windows update through WSUS, System Center, Altiris, any of those other products, then you will still be able to see that update come through and be able to approve it and push it through. And then all of a sudden, everybody's going to start turning on their machine in a couple days, and bam, they're going to be Windows 10. So the key here is you haven't lost anything. You've only gained opportunities or different techniques to get the same result, which is the Windows 10 deployment. All right. So what happened to Windows 10 with software assurance? Well, this is one of the big headlines that MDOP is now included in software assurance. Before, we used to explain to customers that the MDOP, to buy the MDOP, it's like buying a stadium seat at a professional venue. So if I was going to buy a seat at the Houston Texans, and I'm pretty sure I can get those pretty cheap right now, I would actually have to buy the license to buy the seat first, and then I could go find the seats and buy the seat. Well, with MDOP, you used to have software assurance, and then they allowed you to buy MDOP. If you didn't carry software assurance, you weren't even allowed to buy MDOP. Now they've just bundled MDOP into software assurance. Now, what does that mean? Software assurance is going to go up. That's the price increase right here. But the functionality within MDOP, it's crazy, because so many times did I come across customers who just added it because they were working with somebody who really didn't care about what they bought, and they just threw it on there, which means they paid for it. And at the end of their contract, they're now working with us, and we're reviewing their contract and going, okay, how much of the MDOT did you use? Well, what's that? So that's a frequent discussion. However, if you knew what it was, it is a very, very powerful solution. So there are several products in it. That's a whole nother radio show in and of itself. But definitely consider, if you have SA, you definitely need to. Oh yeah, you definitely need to consider that. Go ahead and unmute, Matt. So we're gonna take a question live real quick. So, all right, what's your question? Hey, John. Nope, maybe not. John, you there? Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can, yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. I appreciate you giving us a conversation to have here. What's going on?
My question was basically concerning the quote unquote spy features well known and documented in Windows 10. And I think the posture on Microsoft's part is that they are there and there is nothing at the moment that can be done about those. I mean, as a matter of fact, in some of the trials and some of testing, compatibility and so on,
Right.
I was very surprised at the amount of traffic, network traffic, it generated and it probed.
Yep.
For example, it was one of my hardware-based backup units. What are the plans going forward regarding that? Are they going to address them, give the option in some subsequent updates to eliminate? What is it actually doing? Why did it need to probe my entire network?
Right. So the funny thing, so that's a great question. And the funny thing here about that is there's two different strategies that are behind this. The first one is the whole idea that they're developing a product for 80% of all users and all administrators and all companies, So if you're familiar with the term, and this always drove me nuts, out of the box, right? So what they've done is they've created all this really cool feature sets and technologies to allow us to really take control of our environments. But as a default, a lot of them are already turned on. And they do that because of that 80/20 rule, because they want it to be able to do everything for everybody, which is not a very good strategy. It's never been a good strategy for me in my environment. So what you're experiencing isn't something that they're forcing you to do. What you're experiencing is all of those features have been turned on, and we as administrators have to go and turn those things off. Now, that's part of the answer. The other part of this answer is like I was saying before, where they're giving you more control of your environment, more ways to use your technology. But if you consider the whole idea of the Internet of Things, so we've got smart devices, we've got data coming out of other devices, and we've got tenfold data coming out of the devices we've been using for years, like our laptops and desktops. And that's because of the compute power, and now they've added these features. The idea is, with the Internet of Things, I'm collecting data to help me identify several things happening, whether it's a performance thing that I want to consider, whether it's advanced analytics, so a security threat. Because all this data is moving around much more, now I have a lot more data to see a lot more things that are happening all at once. So if the behavior of an application kind of goes sideways and it starts doing things that it shouldn't, all of these new technologies and these new counters and devices that are reporting everywhere, those technologies are what's going to see it. So we're creating this thick blanket of data sets, stats basically, within our network environments to allow us to catch bad stuff, and allow us to catch poor performers and hardware problems and users that are getting themselves into trouble, or at least trying. That's what you're experiencing, and they're not forcing you to do it. It's just a learning curve now. How do I go through and turn them off? What are they that they're doing? And that's a whole nother, probably that would take the whole 3-hour radio show that we do every Wednesday. So but does that answer your question, at least at a high level?
I know it does. Thank you so much. It's tremendous help in trying to articulate to end users that it's really
Yep.
not that quote unquote spy feature. So
Right.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and you're right though. It could be used that way. That's kind of funny though. But it's not what it's designed for. Now we're talking about Skynet, right? That's not what it was designed for, but that's what that's what it might end up being someday. And then we're already going to be talking to it, and it's going to talk back. And the day it gets sassy, this is the day we get in trouble with it. But that's really what they're trying to do, is to create a safer environment and a more controlled environment. So thank you for the question. That was fantastic. All right, so we're going to keep moving really quick now. Sorry, guys, but I love the interaction. That's how our radio show goes, actually. So that was fantastic. We're not going to talk a lot about the System Center stuff, but I needed to let you guys know that, and this isn't really a very used feature set, kind of like MDOT. Nobody really knew about it, but if you consider the whole System Center stack, there's two ways to buy it: the server side and the client side. And on the client side, obviously, we have our favorites, Config Man, Service Manager, well, not Service Manager, Config Man, and the endpoint protection, the antivirus. Well, the other pieces of System Center you had to buy in a client management suite. And that's the operations manager, that's the monitoring, it's the service manager, which is the service desk. And that one actually is a really important piece of technology. But no, we still haven't had a lot of people deploy that to the entire enterprise. Well, it used to be part of eCal, the eCal suite, and now they're taking that out and saying we need to buy it individually. And I hope what that means is they're just going to create another way for us to get to it. Net, it's probably going to end up costing a little bit more, but in the end, we will also probably be able to save a little bit, because typically these types of moves gives us more options on ways to buy them and what to buy. So just keep in mind, if you do have Enterprise Cal Suite assigned to all your users, at some point we're going to have that discussion about what we're doing with the System Center parts of that. So moving on, we've got Enterprise Mobility. And man, I'm going to try to move quickly here, guys. Uh, this is becoming a really cool solution, and it's competing with all of the famous mobile device management, identity management. It's really taken on a lot of different information or industries, if you will, categories. We might call them Gartner categories, taking on several at once. And so let's get started. So the first one is identity access management. So identity management, typically we didn't really associate it with AD. Um, AD was a great identity manager, but you had to integrate it with your third-party apps that didn't use AD, so they had to do LDAP calls or whatever against the AD. We would associate this functionality used to it would be Novell, or Oracle had a really good identity management suite, IBM's Tivoli, and then you have the cloud-based versions of this, which is like Centrify, Okta, Ping. There's so many out there. By the way, we represent all of those companies. um, the the identity access management here is a full identity manager. So what they've taken is the old forefront identity management feature set, and again they've increased the functionality of that, and the AD itself. So the group management, the single sign-on, the authentication from cloud-based products into your AD, and really created a great identity management solution that works both on premise and in the cloud. And in the cloud isn't just reserved to Azure and Office 365. I've got a slide here and I'll get into that here in a second. So you have the ability to extend your AD using this with all the identity management features into the cloud, including all other software as a service apps. And it still has the self-service portal to reset passwords so that your help desk don't have to do that for everybody. Mobile device and application management. So the MDM features and Intune, well, we call it the MDM. We focus on MDM. The fact is it will manage devices that are outside your network as well, and that means it'll manage either third-party devices that aren't joined to your domain. It'll fully manage a laptop. You won't get the full features that you would if they were joined to your domain, but it can manage mobile devices like other laptops as well. And then the application management is, the ability to put corporate apps onto third-party devices or non-corporate owned devices, and when you separate, pull those back. That's the technology that's doing that. The Azure Rights Management Premium is part of the Enterprise Mobile Suite, so that is the object level security. The access control list is now assigned directly to a Word doc. It's assigned directly to an Excel spreadsheet. If you are not in that ACL, you will not see that document. And trust me, I've tested this inside of a lot of environments. We even do games where we try to get somebody to, we let everybody try to figure out the first, whoever can steal the data out of a rights managed protected document wins. And typically the person who grabs their camera and takes a picture of the screen wins that competition, because that's the only way to do that. And then we have the new part of the EMS suite, which is the threat analytics. That is really cool. So this is where we were talking earlier about all that data moving around. Threat analytics is the same technology that your credit card company uses to call you and say, hey, are you really charging something over in India? And if you're in India, you would say, yeah, of course I am. But if you're not in India, you would say, oh, yeah, no, that's not me. Or I actually had somebody purchase some tickets from Canada, and these alarms went off. My credit card company called me and said, hey, are you doing that? No. So they took care of that charge. This is that technology, and it's designed for corporate use in our networks. So now, if I start going to some place I don't typically go to a lot, or I'm trying to get to a website that's not that's blacklisted from my corporate perspective, you can start setting alarms and thresholds, and it can quarantine that user. It can do a ton of different stuff to protect your network. Really cool stuff, whether you're in the cloud or in your corporate environment. So, we're really getting excited about that. I put this slide in here because I wanted to relay some business use cases for this environment. So they have these things. We didn't really associate them with the products, which to me is kind of funny. And the funniest thing on this slide is that it just works. My favorite technologies, especially my favorite new technologies, are the ones that let me do business the way I did them before. So I'm going to deploy this new solution, but I want all my clicks to be in the same place. This does a good job of that. You might have to add a click, but all in all, it's going to be familiar. It's gonna have the same or similar look and feel. The learning curves decreased because of the way that they've architected that, and that's what that "it just works" means. I think I sat here for 5 minutes trying to figure out how to rephrase that, so I apologize. But basically, that's what it means. And here we're pointing out that the iOS, Android, and Windows, and thousands of apps, I'm sure that's almost 10,000 of apps now, can be managed with this environment. This is what I was talking about earlier with the identity management solution. So if you notice Salesforce, Box, Hightail, Dropbox, Concur, SAP, SAP Online, AWS, that's a cool one. You can utilize your corporate AD to authenticate into all those systems, which is really cool. You're going to use part of the EMS, which is the Azure AD Premium, and then you're going to use Azure AD Premium to extend it out to these applications. Now, the cool thing is SAML, which is SAML, which is the security version of XML. That's the new protocol. We use Kerberos in our own network. SAML is the cloud-based version of that, so it's encrypted and secure. But all of these solutions can use that. Azure AD Premium can use that, and so therefore you can connect it and extend your AD to all these third-party apps. Really cool stuff. And then this just goes into the process of single sign-on, which is what we're talking about, so that when I log into a domain joined device and then I go out to any of those products, my machine is going to automatically authenticate me through to those products. And so, that's really cool to me. And we have that conversation with a lot of customers right now. The intelligent cloud here is, machine learning. There's a lot of back-end stuff that Azure's doing that allows us to really see what's happening. And back to John's question, that was a great question, actually. There's a bunch of stuff that's deployed in the back end to make it secure. So I still have a lot of customers that ask me, we don't, or give me the Heisman and say, we don't have a need for cloud. We don't want cloud. It's just going to cause problem for us. And in the back of their mind, they're saying they're scared to let their data go out there because they're afraid somebody's going to take it. Well, guess what? This is one of the safer places to put it. It might be safer than your own data center. And I've built several data centers for large companies, and oh my gosh, it's they're doing a lot more than I did. Let me put it that way. The multi-factor authentication is really cool. You can buy that by itself, and there's several ways to do it. It's ever evolving. So, the phone factor that it evolved from is still there, but they've added new features, including an app that goes on your phone. So when I try to authenticate into Microsoft's network, my app goes, "Hey, you got an authentication request. You want to go in and approve it?" Yep, I do. And then you have this advanced analytics that detects threats. Here's a little bit more on this. I wanted to give you guys more references for that, so I put that in here. We've just about hammered that into the ground. And then this is the marketing stuff for for EMS. And again, more marketing. But the thing that I wanted to stress here is the compliancy that you can push out. So the policies, device management, policy management, and it goes down to the hardware. So we have the hardware features that allows us to make sure that the device is actually a PC and it is who it says it is. And then you have the rest of your security levels. Secure in depth is still very much alive, and we're still doing all of that stuff. It's just a lot of it's built into the operating system now. And this is just to stress that you have the ability to push out apps and pull them back and not let them mingle with your personal areas of your own mobile devices, and remove them whenever you needed to. There's actually litigation that is focused on having a device totally wiped, where I had all my pictures of my last vacation on my phone and I separated from my company, and bam, those are all deleted. And of course, I didn't have them backed up. Well, I do. I mean, I do now, but there was litigation on that. So here we have the ability to be very clear, and this has to go with a corporate policy that you have all your end users sign, right? But you have the ability to set up these environments in these containers of these apps and data so that, and I think the next slide shows that, where you can prevent corporate assets using rights management services and the mobile application and all that stuff in conjunction with each other, prevent them from saving it to their own environment, to a private, non-secure, non-managed environment. So really cool stuff. And then we have the encryption across the board, and then the encryption features are just getting bigger. So now I can encrypt multiple devices. I can encrypt, temporary storage devices, and manage them in a single location. And we've already talked about this. I just wanted to give you guys more information that's end user friendly, like John was saying, so that you can explain this once this thing's done. So here is kind of a breakdown of what it looks like. This is all retail, and Microsoft put this together. So what you're doing is you're bundling these features. But I told you that like just Azure AD Premium in and of itself is taking on multiple Gartner categories. Well, they're doing that with EMS as well. And that's what you're seeing here. So you have your ID management, which actually is authentication as well. And you also have your MDM and MAM, and then data protection and advanced threat detection. All of that's thrown into one product and bundled. And to rebuild it, you would have to go get a few vendors and to do some of that. So that's what we put that in here. Now, the next few slides, I prefer to have technical information in front of me. I'm a techie, and I know I've thrown a lot of marketing stuff at you guys today, but these next few slides really get into the detail of what the offering is compared to what the free stuff you get or what's bundled in the other products. So if I'm an Office 365 user, what am I going to end up with? That's the Azure AD free here, so I can utilize these features. But then with Azure AD Premium, what do I get? I wanted to give you guys a more technical perspective. So I've added these slides as well, including the MFA. This is, like I said, the MFA is really, really cool. And the RMS, so the rights management. As you can see, Office 365 comes with a majority of it, but then the Azure, so the EMS part of it, allows you to utilize RMS on-premise, so in your own data center. So that's really kind of cool. And then here we have several of the EMS features and how they stack up against or where they're present. So MDM, Intune, and then Intune plus Config Manager. So this is the device management feature sets. I have a lot of customers that have requirements that fit within some of these lower level products. So a lot of customers are just Exchange ActiveSync. That's all they needed. So they don't need to buy anything. But the ones who have additional requirements will start looking at the additional, the Microsoft Intune or integrating Intune with their config man. And so I wanted to give you guys a quick look at what that is. And then we have the slides, and this is really kind of the exciting part. EMS is integrated with Windows 10 more than any other operating system. So the single sign-on, the device provisioning with Windows 10 into the EMS, we've already talked about that, but I wanted to give you some documents on this. The mobile device management, the app management, the store, the domain join, all of that's new and exclusive only to Windows 10 with EMS. And then the encryption of the data at rest, and then the encryption for the roaming data. That's Windows 10 features. So, like I said, Windows 10 is a great BYOW solution if you can implement Windows 10 plus EMS, Enterprise Mobility Suite. Very cool stuff. And then here's some more feature sets and what operating systems do with the EMS products. So obviously, Enterprise has everything, and if you're running an Office or an Intune or EMS, you get the enterprise feature set. So it would behoove you to actually utilize that. We do have a lot of customers that are sitting on the enterprise code but don't use it, and that was a resource issue. I get that. We're here to help too with some of that stuff. We have the ability to go find funding for that and help you get that implemented to get you there. I get it. That's more work that has to be done. But we definitely would like the opportunity to help you achieve your goals and get your job done so you can focus back on the business. So I put in here some more links for references. There's a couple of the Microsoft's marketing links here, but then I also put in the technical stuff. That's what I prefer to speak about. And so, feel free to go there, or you can call us. This is just a slide to say who we are. The pre-sale services team, myself and my colleagues, I've got a couple of senior IT strategists on staff as well. We're basically IT businessmen that have been enterprise architects or something else in the IT shop. We actually have a guy on staff that was the 7th developer of Microsoft Excel. So our team has got a ton of experience in the business of IT. So if you want to just bounce any ideas, find out what other companies are doing, what the trends are, feel free to reach out to us, and we can just set up any conversation. All right, so I know I went long. I apologize, but I wanted to take a look and see if anybody had a question. And Matt says that somebody is raising their hand. You want to go ahead and bring them online, Matt? All right, we're going to talk to Brian. Brian, how are you doing today?
I just wanted to go back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little bit distorted, but I think we'll be able to deal with it.
All right, real quick. You mentioned that you cannot use a deployment to upgrade to Windows 10. I was just reading an article about the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. Can you speak about that at all?
Absolutely. So you must have misunderstood me, because deploying Microsoft Windows, you have all of the abilities that you had before. You've just got added features that you can do it in different ways. So I can do it all the old ways, but I have some new features available to me. The Windows Deployment Toolkit has been around for a long time, and that is the toolkit that you're going to use to build your image, to tweak the operating system before you deploy it, to customize it, to adhere to your own policies. It's a free toolkit. There are some great technical articles that show you how to use it to configure the operating system and to prepare it for deployment. But it's a great tool. A lot of my friends use it, and it's it's very mature, because like I said, we've been using it for years. They do have it for the Windows 10 environment as well. They're not going to change that, because, like I said, that's a heavily used tool. But it's definitely a good tool to use. If you would like, Matt can take down your name, and we can send you the technical articles on how to configure it and use it.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, we have another question. How supportive is Identity and Access Management AD Premium with various products as compared to the competitive products like Okta? Great question. And I know that Okta is at the top of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, or they're not only at the top, but they're at the right side of the top, the far top right. When you compare Okta, you're going to compare it to a subset of the Azure AD Premium functionality. And Azure AD Premium basically took over the functionality that we associate with Forefront Identity Manager, which is the Microsoft direct competitor. And it's also, by the way, the new version is the Microsoft Identity Manager, but it's in direct. The MIM, Microsoft Identity Manager, is in direct competition with Okta. However, Okta is a software as a service solution and can only be used out in the cloud. And so therefore, it's kind of a subset of what Azure AD Premium does. So Azure AD Premium will add all of the identity management features that Okta has. You can utilize them from both on-premise and in the cloud. And you still have the AD features in the background to accommodate. So, for example, If I wanted to use Azure AD Premium for everything, for my whole corporate network, now I can if I do everything Windows 10. But let's say I have a domain controller on premise, I still have the ability to do all the group management. So now, I can put a group in AD, my security team can put a group in AD, assign that to the policy within Azure AD Premium that says this group is authorized to use Salesforce.com. And through the same tools that I use today for AD management, I can utilize those to, remotely, if you will, administer the functionality that we are talking about that also resides in Okta. So that's why I'm saying Azure AD Premium or EMS is actually taking on several Gartner categories, because they're covering the access and identity management side of things. They're covering the directory service side of things. They're covering there's audits involved now. Azure AD Premium has a much more capable audit functionality. And there's other competitors to Okta that do better in the audit space as well, like Centrify. But Azure AD Premium has the audit ability now to audit all access to on-premise and cloud-based environments. So pretty cool. Okta is a great solution, though. Don't get me wrong; it meets its needs, and there are plenty of companies that have the right business cases to just go with Okta. Azure AD Premium is trying to compete with that and a bunch of other categories. All right, so we have some other. Do you need Azure in your AD to auto join a BYOD to your network? The Azure AD Premium is needed, and the Windows 10 is also needed, because that's the only operating system that will automatically join a domain to Azure AD Premium. That's one of the added benefits to going with a Windows 10 device right now. So great question. I'm glad you asked that. So OEM licenses aren't upgradable for free to Windows 10. Actually, that's the ones that are for the next 7 months. So the OEM is what you bought with your device. Microsoft offered you a year to go get that patch and automatically upgrade those licenses to Windows 10. It's the volume license that is that we have to have a different conversation about. So to answer your question, and I'm glad you asked that, because when I'm not clear on something, I really appreciate you guys stepping up and saying, "Are you sure about this?" The OEM licenses are upgradable with that patch management feature. So that patch feature where you set your Windows updates to automatically go. There's a Windows update for OEM customers to update those machines. It's just, you can't administer other than the patch management side of things. So if your strategy within your organization is to deploy all OEM, which is prevalent, I mean, that's what most companies do actually, and then you set up WSUS, for example, to administer your patches, what you would do here is you would approve that patch, and then that would go out and upgrade everybody in your organization. That's how it works. That's why we tell people be careful, because it's easy to accidentally do too. But it is the OEM license that you can do for the next 7 months for that. Great question. Is there a new version of Windows Server needed to administer Windows? I think we already answered that. The Windows 2012 R2 server is the equivalent. However, they'll all do it. The administration of it is application based. And so the full feed, the older versions of System Center will do it to a certain level. The newest versions, like 2012 R2 with System Center, it's the same release pattern as Windows, for a very good reason. Pay attention to that, guys. There's also a SKU that is both Windows and System Center in one SKU. So, but yeah, the Windows 2012 R2 is the equivalent version of the Windows 10. And sorry, guys, I'm trying to move as quickly as I can for you. I know that we're over time. Do we still have to go to the web portal to do SSO like Okta does? Or with Azure's native means, no usage with the portal, predefined cloud services, we will make that's our last question. Thanks, Matt. So great question. There are a lot of technologies out there that will utilize the token that's embedded in the operating system to authenticate for domain join devices. Okta is not one of them. Centrify is, but Azure AD Premium will utilize it. So what they were after, and this is a great question because this is something near and dear to my heart, and user experience is key, right? So when we do a single sign-on, we want it to first try to use the token that you use to log into your operating system with before it does anything else. With a domain joined device, that is the end user experience you will get. It doesn't matter if you're sitting at home, and it doesn't matter if you're at the coffee shop logged into their public network. If you have a domain joined device, you're using Azure AD Premium or Direct Access, either one, or both, the end user experience will be as if they were sitting at their desk on a PC. There will not be additional authentications into those products that we've connected to Azure AD Premium. So I hope that helps. That's something very, like I said, something very important to me, because introducing these additional clicks to log into all of my apps. Yeah, I took away the need to remember those passwords, which is important, but end users are going to go, now I have to click everywhere. Well, I saved you from having to manage 40 passwords. Yeah, but I have 2 extra clicks. You guys know how end users are. And I'm that way now. I'm in a different organization. I'm not in the IT shop now. So yeah, I'm high maintenance. And so definitely there is an architecture with Azure AD Premium that allows you to use the first login that you use to get into the machine to authenticate into these other apps. That was a great question. So I just want to remind everybody that they will receive a follow-up email with the recording, a link to the recording, the slide deck that you guys can utilize here, and also always, we will be on the air Wednesdays, and we'll put this in the email. We'll be on the air Wednesdays talking about IT business. You can always call in and ask these questions on the air. We'll be more than happy to ask them. We're actually giving away $25 gift cards for anybody that calls in to Amazon. So we just appreciate everybody being here. But if you have any further questions or need to have a discussion, want to figure out a strategy to utilize some of these technologies, feel free to talk to us. We've got an organization that's focused on you getting your job done. And we're not going to come in and say you have to buy a ton of stuff from us to have these conversations. Our business culture is to help people do IT business. Everything else will fall into place. And that's why I was a customer of Software One. That's why I came over here. So always feel free to reach out to just bounce ideas off of us. So so thanks again to everybody for tuning in and listening. And I hope everybody has a great day. And give us a call if you need to discuss anything further. All right. Y'all take care.